Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Michelle Fondin. I'm an author and speaker, and I'm the author of Heal Yourself, A Return to Wholeness, the integration of body, mind, soul, and spirit. All of my published books are available on Amazon. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Thank you for subscribing below. Click on the bell, scroll up to all for all notifications. And thank you for giving the video a thumbs up. I teach meditation. You can take an online course or you can do that one-on-one with me over Zoom. The information is in the info box below or beside the video. Welcome to this new series on the Empowerment Tribe on self-realization and self-actualization. Today's video is an introduction to self-realization. What is it? How does it compare to self-actualization? And just helping you get in the right mindset of the two concepts that we're going to be addressing on this channel from now on. In fact, it started about a couple of months ago. Self-realization. What is it? And why are we addressing it on this channel? Self-realization is coming into the full potential of oneness, unity consciousness. I know without a doubt you've heard the term unity consciousness. You may or may not have heard the term self-realization. When we talk about self-realization, we're talking about the capital S of self, meaning your higher spiritual self, the part of you that is a piece of God. Inherently, we know this already. The inner part of us, the soul, the higher spiritual self part of us, is constantly searching for the truth, is constantly searching for unity with higher source. Even if you are unaware, the silent part of you, the soul part of you, is constantly searching your entire life until one day you are waking up to this. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but first, what I really want to do is I want to address the differences between self-realization and self-actualization. The concept of self-realization, as I mentioned, is becoming oneness with spirit, oneness with God, unity consciousness. This is the part of you that is constantly searching. Now, self-realization, the concept of spirituality and coming into the fullest being that you are, and we all are in unity with God, spirit, source, comes from ancient texts in India called the Vedas. In one text, which we're going to study together in particular, it is called the Upanishads. The Upanishads. This is an ancient text, as are the Vedas. This is an ancient text from the Vedas that is about 4,000 years old, give or take. Give or take a few years, but it was discovered to be 2000 BC or so. So we're going to study the Vedas, especially the Upanishads, and that is where these ancient concepts come from, the pathway toward self-realization. Included in that are ancient texts like the Bhagavad Gita, the Song of the Lord, which is the ancient Hindu text, as well as the Dhammapada, which are ancient studies from the Buddha. So all of these texts together are comprised to give us this concept of self-realization. Self-actualization, which I've already talked about a little bit on this channel, and I'll put the link here to what is self-actualization so you can check it out after this video. Self-actualization was popularized by psychologist Abraham Maslow in the 20th century. Self-actualization is the fullness of human potential, which they're very closely interrelated because you cannot reach the fullest of your human potential until you realize the fullness of who you are. Maslow studied what he calls superhumans, if you will, in what he coined as the science of becoming. The science of becoming was becoming the fullest of what you can be as a human. And he studied these superhumans, if you will, those who are reaching the highest heights of the fullest of human potential, and he looked for common traits of these humans. And so we're going to study those in concert with one another because they are very interrelated. And also, in order to become self-realized, you have to come into the fullest potential of who you are. In order to come to the fullest potential of who you are, you need to become self-realized. Does that make sense? So that's why the two concepts truly do go hand in hand. And that is also why we're going to study both on this channel. We're starting at this base here. It's best to start with knowledge that I'm not sure if all of you know, but we're going to start with the basics for sure. The pathway to self-realization is through meditation. If you haven't guessed, it's something I talk about all the time on my channel. It is also something that I teach and that I've taught since 2009 when I first learned in 2007 with Dr. Deepak Chopra and his staff at the Chopra Center. This was way back. This is when it was in Carlsbad, California, and I learned in San Diego. But the concept that I teach is very close to transcendental meditation. It's called primordial sound meditation. If you are interested, you can contact me or take my online course. But the pathway to self-realization, as the ancient texts point out, is through the process of meditation. And we're going to teach all these concepts on this channel. But first, I wanted to read to you something from the introduction to the Upanishads. This gentleman, Eknath Eswaran, which I don't even know if I'm pronouncing his name properly, but he is a phenomenal writer and interpreter of the ancient texts. And I'm going to read a little passage from his introduction, which gives you what self-realization is really trying to accomplish here. The infinite, free, unbounded, full of joy is our native state. We have fallen from that state and seek it everywhere. Every human activity is an attempt to fill this void. But as long as we try to fill it from outside ourselves, we are making demands of life which life cannot fulfill. Finite things can never appease an infinite hunger. Nothing can satisfy us but reunion with our real self with a capital S, which the Upanishads say is Sat Chit Ananda, absolute reality, pure awareness, and unconditional joy. That is the basis for this principle. That is what we are seeking. And that is where I'm going to lead you toward infinite joy, infinite abundance of happiness, unconditional love, freedom, moksha. And let me bridge this. Let's bridge this. I want to make this as concrete as possible. And the way I can make this concrete is if I bridge this for you. Everyone who comes upon this spiritual journey has a breaking point. What was your breaking point? Why are you here? Why are you watching this? My breaking point came when I was about 28, 29, 30, somewhere around there. My breaking point came, and I tell the full story, or part of the full story rather, in a video where I tell you how I discovered the chakras. And I'll go ahead and put that link here so you can check that out after this video. My breaking point came around that time, 28, 29, 30, around there. I can't remember the exact date, where I was extremely dissatisfied with my life and I had no idea why. I had the house, I had 2 beautiful children, I had the marriage, I had food on the table, I had everything that I wanted in this life, but I was truly, deeply, deeply unhappy. I was depressed even. And I had no idea why or where it was coming from. I knew there was something else to my life. I just didn't know what it was. Now, I've been spiritual most of my life, and in fact, pretty highly religious for a large part of that life. And I went to church and I prayed and I read the scriptures and I had friends, but I could not escape this sinking feeling, this tugging feeling that there was something else to this life, and certainly something else to my life. And that was my breaking point. That was the point at which I began to search for answers. I was looking for anything that could possibly appease this sense of unease and depression and dissatisfaction with this life. And I began to ask myself these questions. Who am I? Why am I here? What is my purpose? Why am I so unhappy in this life that by all intents and purposes is satisfactory? By all intents and purposes, I have everything I need. But I was deeply, deeply at my core, totally unhappy and unfulfilled. I came upon many different programs, most of which were by Dr. Deepak Chopra and Dr. Wayne W. Dyer. And one of the first programs I came upon was a book called Your Sacred Self by Dr. Wayne W. Dyer. And I listened to that on audio tape at the time. At the time, it was audio tape. It was probably 2001, 2002. I can't really remember exactly when. I came upon the audio tape and I started listening to this concept of your sacred self, which is really talking about your higher spiritual self. And thus began my pathway to self-realization. That was the jumping point. That was the starting point. Everything after that point started to make more and more sense to me. And my dissatisfaction for life decreased the more my knowledge of self-realization increased. Now, it was never a growth in a straight line for me. It's 2024. We're talking 23, 24 years of spiritual growth. I have grown so much in those years, and I had some answers. And then you go back to daily living because you got to pay the bills and raise the kids and make the lunches. But now I've come to the point at which I feel 100% ready that this is the pathway that I need to teach to others. But what was your breaking point? What was the point at which you became totally saddened, dissatisfied, anxious, and depressed about your life? Even though you had all of the things on the exterior that seemed to make for a pretty decent life. You had a good job, maybe you were married, some kids, a house, an apartment, a condo, traveling, going out with friends. But there was this tugging feeling inside you that something just was not right. What was that for you? When was that for you? And it's when you discover the starting point and not brush it away, not push it under the rug. Because a lot of people will actually push that under the rug. They'll take antidepressants, anti-anxiety pills. They will go see a psychologist instead of looking deep inside of themselves as far as looking at themselves from a spiritual perspective. Because some people, in fact, most people just don't know. They don't know that that is their soul calling them to become self-realized with the capital S self, the higher spiritual self, to get in touch with their higher spiritual selves and to really get to know their higher spiritual selves and the calling of their soul. So it's good to remember this. It's good to remember your starting point. And it's also good to take a look at where you are now in this process. Where are you now on the pathway to self-realization? Are you still consuming information rather than integrating it into your own life? Are you meditating, journaling, doing a lot of self-reflections? Are you taking time each day to be in silence and to ponder the beauty in life? Are you living in gratitude and appreciation, wonder and awe? The principles of spirit, do you feel joyful most of the time? And so answering those questions will help you understand where you are on this path. It'll also help direct you as to where you need to go on this path. And the path is for you to find yourself, to rediscover yourself. It's not as if you lost yourself. You've just temporarily forgotten who you truly are. So I hope this is helpful in helping you to redirect your pathway toward your higher self and towards your ultimate destiny, which is reunion with your source, so that you can come back into this earthly existence and live from a much higher place, a much more satisfied place, a much more joyful place, rather than constantly living in dissatisfaction of this life, even though you do have all the things that you need to move forward. I invite you to continue to join me on this journey. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Thank you for subscribing to my channel below. Click on the bell, scroll up to all for all notifications. Thank you for giving the video a thumbs up. Thank you for sharing this video with others who are looking for the path toward transcendence and enlightenment. Thank you so much for your support of my YouTube channel. You can donate via Patreon. You can purchase one of my 11 published books. I also have the meditation course. I'm really gearing up to do group classes. I have the online course, and of course I do one-on-one individual instruction for meditation. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.